Winning isn't about luck. It's not about chance. It's not about waiting for the right time or hoping someone comes to rescue you. Winning is about courage, the courage to face yourself, the courage to step into uncertainty, the courage to act when fear is screaming in your ear, telling you that you're not enough, that you'll fail, that you'll embarrass yourself. Winning is about silencing that voice and moving forward anyway. Courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear. Courage means you feel it fully and still take that step. Fear is a natural human instinct. It keeps us alive. But courage is what allows us to actually live. Most people spend their lives avoiding pain, avoiding risk, avoiding failure, and in doing so, they also avoid greatness. You cannot win if you are constantly protecting yourself from losing. Think about it. Every champion, every leader, every person who changed the world, they had fear just like you. But what separated them was that they didn't wait for fear to vanish. They trained themselves to act in spite of it. They used fear as fuel. They leaned into discomfort, because real growth never happens in comfort zones. Real victories come when you dare to step into the unknown, when you say to yourself, I might fall flat on my face, but I will not stay on the sidelines. Winning requires courage to commit to a vision that no one else can see, to commit to showing up day after day when results aren't instant, to commit when your friends doubt you, when your family questions you, when the world tells you it can't be done. It takes courage to look at all of that resistance and still declare, I will. You don't need someone else's permission to win. You don't need the perfect plan, the perfect background, or the perfect timing. What you need is the courage to start, the courage to persist, and the courage to rise every time you get knocked down. The scars you carry aren't signs of weakness. They are proof of the battles you had the guts to fight. Ask yourself right now, what dream have you been putting off because you're afraid to fail? What conversation are you avoiding because you're afraid of rejection? What decision are you delaying because you're afraid of the unknown? That hesitation is costing you your victory. The longer you wait for courage to show up, the longer you wait to live, you want to win, then stop running from fear. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop telling yourself stories about why you can't. Winning is not reserved for the strongest, the smartest, or the luckiest. It is reserved for the bold, for those who have the guts to try, for those who can get knocked down 7 times and stand up 8. It takes courage to win because winning means putting yourself on the line. It means risking failure, risking judgment, risking heartbreak. But if you don't risk, you don't gain. If you don't step up, you stay stuck. And deep down, you know that playing it safe has never given anyone a life of fulfillment. So today, choose courage, not someday, not when it feels comfortable, not when the stars align. Choose courage now. Because every time you act with courage, you get stronger. Every time you act with courage, you build momentum. And every time you act with courage, you bring yourself one step closer to the victory that's waiting for you. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite it. And when you understand this at the deepest level, your entire perception of life changes because most people are waiting for fear to disappear before they take action. They wait for the moment when they feel ready, when they feel confident, when they feel certain. And that moment rarely ever comes, so they stay stuck, trapped in hesitation, telling themselves stories about why now is not the right time. But the truth is, courage only shows up in the presence of fear. If there is no fear, there is no need for courage, and that is why the greatest victories of your life will not come when everything feels safe and predictable. They will come when you step into the unknown with your heart pounding, your palms sweating, and your mind screaming 1,000 doubts. And still take that step anyway. Think about the moments in your life where you grew the most. It wasn't when things were easy. It was when you were terrified, when you were uncertain, when you had to risk something, whether it was asking for that opportunity, speaking your truth, starting over after failure, or daring to dream bigger than the people around you thought was possible. And in every one of those moments you were faced with a choice, the choice to retreat back into comfort or to advance forward into possibility, the choice to let fear dictate your future or to allow courage to open a door that fear was desperately trying to keep shut. And when you chose courage, even if you stumbled, you became stronger, you became wiser, and you discovered a part of yourself that would have stayed hidden. If you had chosen safety, fear will always whisper. It will always try to convince you that you're not ready, that you're not worthy, that someone else is more talented, more experienced, more deserving, and courage is the voice that says, I may not have it all figured out, but I refuse to let fear decide my destiny. And when you adopt this mindset, you stop waiting for the world to give you permission. You stop comparing yourself to everyone else. And you start owning the fact that progress belongs to those who take action in the face of doubt, not those who wait for perfect conditions, because perfect conditions don't exist, and if you keep waiting, years will pass, opportunities will slip by, and regret will become heavier than any fear you could have ever faced. Courage is a muscle, and like any muscle, it gets stronger the more you use it. The first time you take a bold step, it might feel overwhelming. Your entire nervous system will be screaming for safety. And yet once you cross that threshold, once you realize you survived, that you didn't break, you gain proof that you are capable of more than you thought. And that proof becomes confidence. That proof becomes momentum. And with each act of courage, your capacity expands. What once felt terrifying becomes your new normal. And from that new place, you are able to take on even bigger challenges. And this is how people transform their lives, not by eliminating fear, but by consistently proving to themselves that they are stronger than the fear that shows up. Look at anyone who has achieved greatness in any field, whether it's business, sports, art, or leadership, and you'll find the same pattern. They felt fear, they faced doubt, they had moments where quitting seemed easier, but they chose courage. They decided that fear would not be the driver of their life. They allowed it to ride in the backseat, but they kept their hands on the wheel, steering toward the vision they believed in. And this is the same choice you have every single day. Every time you confront a difficult decision, every time you want to speak up, every time you dream of a bigger future but hesitate because of what others might think, courage is the lever that moves you forward, and fear is the chain that holds you back. The truth is, fear is never going away. It will evolve. It will disguise itself in different ways, sometimes as procrastination, sometimes as self-doubt, sometimes as the endless pursuit of preparation. And courage is the discipline of cutting through those disguises and saying, I'm moving forward anyway. Because if you wait until you don't feel fear, you will never move. If you wait until the path is clear, you will never start. And if you wait until you have absolute certainty, you will never know what you're truly capable of. So courage is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It is the fuel for transformation, and every great achievement you see in the world is built on a foundation of people choosing courage over and over again. Not once, not twice, but daily, because courage is not a one-time event. It is a way of living, a decision you make again and again until it becomes who you are. And when you begin to embody this, when you start to live with the awareness that courage is always available to you, you begin to shift your entire life trajectory. You stop being a prisoner of fear. You stop settling for less than you desire. You stop negotiating with your dreams, and instead you step fully into the arena of life, where uncertainty is guaranteed, where risk is real, but where the rewards are far beyond anything comfort could ever give you. And in that arena you discover your power, you discover your resilience, and you discover that the person you are becoming is far greater than the person you were protecting when you let fear hold you back. Winning requires commitment to your vision, even when no one else believes in it, because every dream worth pursuing will be challenged, doubted, and resisted not only by the world around you, but by the voice inside your own head that constantly questions whether you are enough, whether you are capable, whether you should even try. And in those moments, the only thing that will keep you moving forward is the level of commitment you have to the vision you hold, the picture of a life you know you're meant to create. Because if that vision is weak, if it's negotiable, the first sign of resistance will push you back into mediocrity. But if that vision is something you are truly committed to, it becomes non-negotiable, it becomes a standard, And when something is a standard, you don't treat it like a wish or a hope. You treat it like a necessity, like air, like water. Like something your soul cannot live without. Commitment to a vision means you are willing to endure the seasons when no one applauds you, when no one recognizes your effort, when no one understands why you're doing what you're doing, because commitment is not about proving others wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you can honor what you know to be true in your heart. It's about building a life aligned with your values and desires rather than being swayed by the doubts and insecurities of others. And that is why so few people truly win at the level they could, because they are more committed to being liked, accepted, or comfortable than they are to the vision burning inside of them. Every breakthrough in history was born from someone holding onto a vision long before anyone else could see it. Innovators who built what others said was impossible, the leaders who stood for what others thought was unrealistic, the dreamers who endured ridicule and rejection until the world eventually caught up. And the reason they broke through was not because the world suddenly made it easy. It was because they refused to let go. They refused to surrender to the opinions of others. They refused to abandon the vision that gave them meaning. And that level of commitment created momentum. It created resilience. It created breakthroughs that changed everything. Your vision doesn't need to be understood by others. In fact, if it's truly bold, most people won't understand it. They'll project their limitations onto you. They'll try to talk you out of it, not because they don't care, but because your courage threatens their comfort. Your determination forces them to look at their own excuses, and many people cannot handle that reflection, so they'll tell you to be realistic. They'll tell you to slow down. They'll tell you to settle. And this is where commitment is tested, because when their voices grow louder than your inner knowing, you will be tempted to conform. And if you do, you trade your vision for their approval. But when you are truly committed, you hold the line, you stand firm, you keep going. Even if it means walking alone for a while, commitment means showing up when the excitement wears off, when the initial rush of motivation fades and the grind of reality kicks in, because enthusiasm can start the journey, but commitment is what finishes it. Enthusiasm feels good in the moment, but commitment is what keeps you working late at night when no one is watching. Commitment is what gets you up early when your body wants to stay in bed. Commitment is what drives you to keep learning, keep adapting, keep creating, even when the results are invisible. And that is what separates those who wish from those who win, because wishes fade when things get hard. But commitment intensifies in the fire of challenge. Think of commitment as planting a seed in the ground. When you first plant it, there is nothing to see, nothing to celebrate, and yet you must water it daily, protect it from weeds, give it time to grow beneath the surface where no one can see. And if you stop too soon, if you give up before the roots are established, the seed dies and you never get to experience the fruit. And most people quit in this hidden stage. They stop because they don't see results. They don't trust the process. They don't understand that growth often happens out of sight before it shows up in plain view. But those who are committed keep watering, keep tending, keep believing, and eventually the vision that looked invisible to others becomes undeniable. Commitment also requires sacrifice. It requires saying no to distractions, no to temporary pleasures, no to paths that lead you away from what you truly want, because every yes to something meaningless is a no to your vision, and if you are not conscious of this, you'll find yourself spread thin, exhausted, chasing things that don't matter, and wondering why your dream feels so far away. But when you are committed, you develop focus, you create boundaries, you prioritize the things that align with your future rather than the things that only entertain your present, and that focus compounds over time, turning small, consistent steps into massive results when no one else believes in you. Commitment is what reminds you that you don't need their belief, because belief is borrowed and temporary, but commitment is internal and permanent. And the truth is, the world often only believes in you after you've already succeeded, after you've already proven what you said you would, after the evidence is undeniable. But by then, it doesn't matter, because the vision was never about convincing them. It was about fulfilling what you knew you were capable of. And when you've lived through that journey, when you've endured the solitude of carrying a vision alone, You develop a strength that can't be shaken, a certainty that can't be bought, and a confidence that comes from knowing you kept going when it would have been easier to quit. Commitment to your vision means you stop treating your dream like a hobby and start treating it like a mission. Something worth fighting for, something worth suffering for, something worth giving your all for. And when you live with that level of intensity, doors begin to open, opportunities appear, and people who once doubted you begin to respect you, because the world respects consistency, the world respects endurance. The world respects those who stay the course when others fall away, and eventually your vision, once invisible, becomes inevitable, not because it was easy, not because it was guaranteed, but because you were committed enough to see it through to the end. Growth never happens in comfort zones. Victory is found in the unknown, and this is a truth that every person who has ever accomplished something extraordinary has lived by, because comfort is seductive. It feels safe, it feels familiar, it feels predictable, and yet nothing in comfort changes you, nothing in comfort challenges you, nothing in comfort forces you to rise beyond who you already are. And if you want to win, if you want to transform your life, you must be willing to step into the unknown, into the unfamiliar, into the place where fear and uncertainty live. Because it is there that your true strength is forged. The human mind is wired to seek safety, to preserve energy, to avoid risk. And while that might have kept it alive in ancient times, today it keeps most people trapped in cycles of mediocrity. They do the same things every day, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and wonder why their life doesn't change. But the reason is simple. Growth requires new experiences, new challenges, new struggles, and you cannot find those by repeating the same patterns that keep you comfortable. You only find them by deliberately stepping into situations that stretch you, test you, and sometimes even scare you. Think about your own life. The times when you grew the most were never when things were easy. They were when you were tested, when you had to rise, when you were thrown into circumstances that demanded more from you than you thought you had to give. Maybe it was starting something new. Maybe it was facing a setback. Maybe it was taking a risk that no one else understood. And in those moments you were uncomfortable, you were uncertain, you were stretched. And yet that's exactly what expanded you, because the unknown forces you to discover parts of yourself you never needed when you stayed safe. Comfort zones give you the illusion of stability, but in reality they slowly suffocate your potential. They whisper to you that tomorrow will be the same as today, that you should stay where it feels good, that you should avoid rocking the boat. But the cost of that safety is massive. The cost is a life of untapped potential. The cost is regret. The cost is looking back one day and realizing that you settled for what was easy instead of pursuing what was possible. And that realization is far more painful than any temporary discomfort the unknown could have caused. The unknown is intimidating because it strips you of control. It forces you to let go of certainty, and that's why so many resist it. But what most don't realize is that it's in that very place, in the unfamiliar, that opportunities exist, because opportunities never live in the places where everyone is comfortable. They exist just beyond the edge of what you know, waiting for you to step outside of what's familiar, and the moment you do, you position yourself for growth that comfort could never give you. When you train yourself to embrace the unknown, you build adaptability, resilience, and creativity. You learn to trust yourself in situations where the outcome isn't clear. You discover that you don't need to have everything figured out to move forward. You only need the courage to take the first step. And from that first step, momentum builds, clarity comes, strength grows, and before long you realize that what once terrified you is now part of your comfort zone, which means it's time again to step beyond it, because growth is a cycle of expanding, adapting, and expanding again. Every champion understands this. Athletes push their bodies beyond exhaustion. Entrepreneurs take risks without guarantees. Artists create without knowing how their work will be received. Leaders make decisions without absolute certainty, and in each case, they step into the unknown willingly, because they know that staying safe produces nothing but stagnation. They know that discomfort is the currency of growth, and that without uncertainty there is no discovery without risk. There is no reward without stepping into the unknown. There is no victory. The people who achieve extraordinary lives are not necessarily the smartest, the most talented, or the most gifted. They are the ones who condition themselves to lean into discomfort rather than run from it. They are the ones who make decisions with incomplete information, who take action while others hesitate, who are willing to fail publicly, to be criticized, to stumble and get back up. And because they are willing to enter the unknown again and again, they unlock levels of success that those clinging to safety will never experience. The truth is, the unknown is where life itself is happening. It's where your potential waits. It's where your best self is hiding, and every time you resist it, every time you retreat into what's comfortable, you shrink a little. You reinforce the belief that you can't handle more. But every time you step into it, every time you dare to face what scares you, you grow, you expand. You elevate your standards, and your life begins to reflect that expansion. Comfort will always call to you. It will always try to pull you back, and that's why winning requires discipline. The discipline to choose growth over ease, the discipline to choose challenge over familiarity, the discipline to step into the unknown not once but as a way of life. And when you do, when you make discomfort your training ground, you begin to unlock victories that most people will never know, not because they weren't capable, but because they weren't willing to leave the comfort of what they knew and embrace the courage of what they didn't. Failure is not the opposite of winning. It is the pathway that shapes champions, and this is one of the most misunderstood truths in life, because most people are taught to avoid failure, to treat it as shameful, to see it as proof that they aren't good enough. And because of that conditioning, they play small, they hold back, they never give their full effort, because deep down they fear the sting of falling short. But the reality is every person who has ever achieved something significant has a trail of failures behind them, not as signs of weakness, but as stepping stones that carved their strength, sharpened their skills, and forged their character. Think of failure as feedback, as information, as a mirror reflecting back what needs to be improved, adjusted, or learned, because without failure there is no growth. If everything you touched turned to gold immediately, you would never develop resilience, you would never build persistence, you would never understand the value of patience or the discipline of mastery. Failure is the process that shapes you into someone worthy of the victory you're chasing, and the only real failure is refusing to try, giving up, or letting the fear of falling stop you from even beginning. Every champion has a highlight reel, but behind that reel are hours of missed shots, failed attempts, and moments of doubt that no one sees. Athletes train for years, losing more times in practice than they ever win in public. Entrepreneurs start ventures that collapse before building the one that succeeds. Artists create dozens of works that go unnoticed before one masterpiece is celebrated. Leaders make wrong decisions before learning how to make the right ones. And in each case, failure was not the end of the story. It was the necessary chapter that developed the wisdom and resilience that success demanded. The problem is most people view failure through the wrong lens. They see it as proof that they should stop, but in truth, it's proof that they're trying, proof that they're in the game, proof that they're stretching themselves beyond what's easy. And the more you fail, the more data you gather, the more clarity you gain, the more prepared you become for the break. Through that is waiting just beyond the lessons you have yet to learn. And the people who win are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who never stop moving forward, no matter how many times they stumble. Failure also strips away ego. It humbles you. It forces you to face your limitations, and in doing so, it builds authenticity and strength, because when you fail and still choose to rise, you prove to yourself that your identity is not tied to a single outcome, that you are bigger than any setback, that you can be knocked down and still rise stronger. And this internal proof creates unshakable confidence, not the fake confidence of pretending to have it all together, but the real confidence of knowing you can endure and adapt no matter what comes your way. Champions don't avoid failure. They seek it. They push themselves to the edge of their ability, knowing that mistakes are inevitable. Because mistakes mean they're growing. Mistakes mean they're stretching. Mistakes mean they're operating outside the comfort of what they've already mastered, and every error is a lesson that sharpens them for the future. This is why winners practice more than others. They rehearse, they test, they try again and again, because they know the more they fail in preparation, the stronger they will be when it counts. And this relentless relationship with failure is what separates those who talk about success from those who live it. The truth is, failure reveals character. When things go wrong, you see who you really are. Do you crumble? Do you quit? Do you retreat into excuses? Or do you dig deeper, find a new way, and rise again? Because resilience cannot be faked. It is forged in the fire of setbacks, and the people who have endured the most are often the ones who carry the greatest strength, because they have been tested, refined, and proven through experience. And that strength becomes the foundation on which their victories are built. Many of the greatest breakthroughs in history were born out of repeated failures. Inventors who tried thousands of times before creating something that worked. Leaders who were rejected over and over before their message was embraced. Dreamers who stumbled countless times before their vision became reality. And if you strip away the myth of overnight success, you will always find years of failure, struggle, and perseverance underneath, because true success is never instant. It is cultivated, and failure is the soil that nourishes it. The difference between those who stay stuck in failure and those who use it to win lies in perspective. If you see failure as final, it will crush you, but if you see it as feedback, it will guide you. If you see it as proof you're not good enough, it will destroy your confidence. But if you see it as training, it will strengthen your resolve. The same event that causes one person to quit can be the very event that causes another to grow. And the deciding factor is how you interpret the experience, and what you choose to do next. Failure is not a wall meant to stop you. It's a hurdle meant to stretch you. It's not a verdict on your worth. It's a lesson in your journey. And when you begin to embrace failure as an ally instead of an enemy, you stop fearing it. You stop hiding from it, and you start leveraging it. Every time you fall short, you extract the lesson, you adjust your approach, you grow stronger, and you keep moving. And over time, those accumulated lessons create mastery. Those repeated attempts create breakthroughs, and those scars become the very evidence that you are willing to fight for something bigger than yourself. The path to victory is paved with failure. There is no shortcut, no easy road, no smooth path where everything goes right. And if you want to be a champion, if you want to win at the highest level, you must be willing to embrace failure again and again, because it is in that embrace that you discover who you truly are. It is in that embrace that you develop the strength to carry the weight of success. And it is in that embrace that you transform from someone who dreams of winning into someone who is prepared to claim it. Courage is the price you pay for a life of fulfillment, progress, and ultimate victory, because everything you want, everything that would make your life richer, deeper, more meaningful, stands on the other side of fear. And the only way to cross that gap is by paying with courage. Most people underestimate this truth. They think fulfillment will come from comfort, from security, from avoiding risk. But the reality is comfort gives you short-term ease and long-term emptiness, while courage demands short-term discomfort and delivers long-term fulfillment. Courage is the currency of transformation. Without it, you remain stuck in the life you know. With it, you unlock the life you desire. Fulfillment doesn't come from achieving small, easy goals. It comes from daring to pursue something that scares you, something that challenges you, something that stretches your identity beyond what you thought was possible. And every time you step into courage, you feel more alive. You feel your heart beat stronger. You feel your spirit expand, because at the deepest level of your being, you are wired to grow. You are wired to expand. You are wired to push beyond limitation, and courage is the key that unlocks that wiring. It is the force that turns fear into fuel, doubt into determination, and setbacks into stepping stones. Progress requires risk, and risk requires courage, because moving forward means leaving something behind, leaving behind who you were, leaving behind what you knew, leaving behind the false sense of safety that comfort gave you, and that takes guts. It takes a willingness to trade the known for the unknown, to step onto a path with no guarantee. to believe in possibilities that no one else can see. And that is why courage is the price of progress. Because without it, you'll keep circling the same patterns, reliving the same days, repeating the same choices, and wondering why nothing changes. But with courage, you break cycles, you create new standards, you raise the bar for what you're willing to accept, and life begins to reward you with opportunities that were hidden until you dared to pursue them. Victory at any level, whether personal, professional, emotional, or spiritual, demands courage, because victory means rising above resistance, and resistance will always test you. It will show up as failure, as rejection, as doubt, as criticism, as delay, and without courage you will buckle under that weight. You will surrender your dream for the illusion of safety, but with courage you meet resistance head on. You don't avoid it, you don't run from it. You use it as training, as preparation, as the forge that makes you strong enough to carry the victory you are chasing. And that is why those who win are not the ones who had the easiest path, but the ones who had the courage to keep walking when the path was hardest. Courage is not just a single act, it is a way of life. It is choosing to be honest when lying would be easier. It is choosing to stand up when blending in would be safer. It is choosing to act when waiting would be more comfortable. And these daily acts of courage build a foundation of strength. Each choice compounds. Each risk taken makes the next one easier. And over time you develop a pattern of living that is fearless, not because fear disappeared, but because you trained yourself to act regardless of it. And from that place your entire life expands, opportunities multiply, relationships deepen, and your confidence grows not from theory, but from evidence that you can face fear and move. Anyway, many people live their whole lives without ever experiencing true fulfillment because they avoid this price. They choose comfort over courage, safety over risk, routine over possibility, and while they may avoid pain, they also avoid growth. They also avoid joy. They also avoid victory, and what they are left with is quiet dissatisfaction, a nagging sense that something is missing, that they could have been more, done more, lived more, and that is the cost of avoiding courage. It may protect you from temporary discomfort, but it robs you of lasting fulfillment when you choose courage. You choose aliveness, you choose to engage fully with life, to chase dreams that light you up, to speak your truth even when your voice shakes, to pursue goals that others call unrealistic. And in doing so you create a life that matters, not just a life that exists. Courage connects you to your highest self because every time you face fear and act, you peel back a layer of limitation and reveal more of your true potential, and that potential is limitless. But it will never be realized without courage, because potential without action remains a dream, and action requires courage. Courage is also contagious when you live with it. Others around you are inspired to step up, to face their own fears, to chase their own visions, and this ripple effect multiplies. Your single act of bravery can ignite courage in someone else, and together those ripples can change families, communities, even generations, because courage doesn't just transform your life, it transforms the lives of everyone who witnesses it, everyone who is touched by it, everyone who feels permission from your example to pursue their own path at the end of life. People rarely regret the chances they took, they regret the ones they didn't. They regret the moments when fear won, when they stayed silent, when they stayed small, when they let opportunities slip because courage felt too expensive in the moment. But the real cost of not paying that price is a life unlived, and that is far more costly than any risk you could take. Fulfillment requires that you face this truth now, not later, because every day you delay, you're trading moments of aliveness for moments of safety. And safety has never created a story worth telling, so courage is the price you must be willing to pay if you want fulfillment. Progress and ultimate victory, it is not optional, it is not negotiable, it is not something you can outsource or hope someone else pays for you. It is your responsibility, your choice, your power. And when you pay that price consistently, you begin to experience a depth of life that most people only dream about. You begin to realize that everything you feared was never as big as it seemed, and everything you gained was greater than you ever imagined. Courage is the cost, but fulfillment is the reward. Progress is the reward, and victory is the reward